Radve 48, Episode 30, Chapters 36 and 37. Our Journey Ends, and Samhaim. Hello, social media mites and mavens. James Homan here. The end of any journey is a time of reflection, relief, and reactions, all of which were greatly aided by having an empty apartment. Years later, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, which I suspect was something that simmered quietly during Harold's last 14 months. Honestly, that seems more like a battle scar than a serious condition. Regardless, there were things to do in terms of closure. My new reality slowly sunk into a new awareness. Left were Beanie Bear and me, two battled and bruised veteran caregivers who had done their very best, except beat the odds. And so our journey ended. Harold's arc was completed. He died as he did everything in his life magnificently. I had promised Harold 3 things. He would stay in our home and never be moved to a facility. I would read The House at Pooh Corner to him while he was in his coma. And 3, I would be there to hold his hand when he crossed over. I did my best to keep 2 out of the 3 of these promises. He died in our home, the apartment he loved so much, and I had finished the Pooh book the night before he died. The concluding chapter is entitled, "And Now It's Time to Say Goodbye." And I could barely read its words through my tears. Alas, I wasn't there to hold his hand when he passed, but I did open a window to allow his spirit to go on. I need to think there were others available to him on the other side to ease his crossing. I think about the arc of Harold's life. 48 years. He valued music, beauty, and art, and I was indeed fortunate to have shared all of that, in addition to our love with him for almost 15 wonderful years. In the days following Harold's death, I felt adrift, empty, and fairly exhausted. I also felt a guilty sense of relief, which seemed almost embarrassing. I found myself moving slowly and feeling a bit agoraphobic. New York City streets required a fortitude that I wasn't certain I possessed any longer. It was difficult for me to even walk to the mailboxes on the corner of our block. One night over dinner, a friend reminded me that life is a pendulum that swings in 2 directions. As I sat weeping somewhat loudly in an Upper West Side restaurant, I couldn't comprehend the axiom's meaning at the time. Later, I cherished her comforting wisdom. I had lost a love, probably my dearest love, but as great works of art reveal us to ourselves, I gained a new perspective, an appreciation for moving on. Harold had given me almost as much by his dying as he had by living. My only regret is that I didn't save a snippet of his chest hair. Yet we do go on somehow. The thought that I might honor Harold's life by telling this story crossed my mind frequently. I always loved to write and knew that it possessed a kind of solace for me. If that were to happen, I knew it would have to wait. I wasn't ready. Maybe someday. Samhaim, 1999. Before his death, Harold had asked that I scatter a mixture of his and Tramp's ashes along their favorite paths in New York Central Park, paths they had walked together every morning for more than 10 years. All Saints' Day, or November 1st, was the perfect day to swing that perforated grocery bag of ashes so gently along these paths. In Spanish cultures, the day is known as Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. The evening before is what we celebrate as Halloween, which in Wicca, the Celtic pagan religion, is called Samhain. It's spelled Samhain, Samhian, but it's pronounced Samhain. It's one of the two most sacred days in the Wiccan calendar. Samhain is Gaelic and literally means the eve of November, and lies exactly between the autumnal equinox and the winter solstice. November 1st, 1999, was a beautiful autumn morning in New York City. Sunny, clear, and brisk, with temperatures in the high 50s. Harold and Tramp loved the autumn. The trees were in full color, the ground carpeted with leaves of red, yellow, and gold, but the grass was still green and dewy. Sally Hamill, Tricia Vivado, their dog Molly, and Gina Greer Farnham met me at 6:30 a.m. Bonnie Bear stayed home, but Molly scampered along the trail, chasing her golden saucer toy that was easily concealed among all the fallen leaves. Tricia and Sally were helpful in recalling the exact steps along this trail, since one or the other of them frequently accompanied Harold and Tramp on these daily excursions. I never did the morning walk because Harold had claimed it's his responsibility. Since he was in graduate school taking classes after work, I had done the early evening and the late night doggy duty. Walking through the allee of American elms, we met Lucy and Mr. Lucy, also known as the playwright A.R. Gurney, whose latest play, Sylvia, has a similar Harold-like character in the first scene of the first act. And then on Lilac Walk, another special place in Central Park, we met Tramp's Gunkle Stephen, Gunkle's for gay uncle, and his gorgeous golden retrievers, Sundance, Cassidy, and Cleo. Harold and Tramp enjoyed seeing them almost daily. As we sauntered, Sally and Trish spoke lovingly of Harold and told stories of their first meeting him in Central Park. True to his name, Tramp had jumped Molly when she was just a puppy and had actually, unintentionally, popped out one of Molly's eyes. Unfazed, Molly became Tramp's closest canine friend and was never dissuaded by that unfortunate first encounter. Molly even learned to lift her leg when she piddled, imitating her friend Tramp. She would run for Uncle Harold and come to a sliding halt, seated perfectly at his feet, fully expecting her next treat from his pockets, which contained an endless supply of treats for all the dogs. I learned how well known and appreciated Mr. Bear's pockets were the first time I wore his jacket into the park. Dogs I had never met would sit at my feet and stare expectantly up at me and those pockets. To prepare for this gathering, I had mixed the ashes the day before and found the mixing messy but much easier and less emotional than I had anticipated. Tramp's ashes came shrink-wrapped in a small cardboard box, which was labeled with the date of his cremation, his name, my name, and a small pink rose. I opened it to find a flowered tin container, including a certificate and a small bag of Tramp's blonde ashes in a plastic bag secured at the opening with a metal twist fastener. A small wire was wound several times around the metal clasp. Of course, Harold's ashes were considerably larger and heavier. A cylinder, also of cardboard, but with metal ends, which was marked temporary, and labeled with his name. After cutting the top metal disc away to open it, I found inside a large plastic bag containing dark gray ashes sprinkled with small chunks of off-white bone and mahogany brown hairs. There was also a certificate on a small white piece of cardboard identifying the remains. The bag was fastened with 2 white twists that were easily removed. It was large enough for me to add tramp's ashes to it, as Harold had requested. The resulting mix of ashes resulted in an almost pretty shade of pale gray. Most of the ashes I spooned into the traditional North American Indian black clay water vessel that I'd bought from our friends Steve and Justine Elmore. The Elmores had a lid made for it, designed. Water vessels usually don't come with lids, so the Elmores had a lid made for it designed to represent the steps of a kiva, which is an underground chamber used for religious rites by the Pueblo Indians in New Mexico. Harold had seen this water jug about a month before he died, unable to speak at that point. His eyes expressed his appreciation of its beauty as he lovingly caressed it in his hands. We knew at that point this would be his container. Because scattering ashes anywhere in Central Park is illegal, our ceremony had to take place as surreptitiously as possible. To be sure, the park rangers were out in force, but no one stopped us. We appeared to be a group of people walking a dog together on a beautiful morning. Harold's wish came true. About 1/3 of the ash mixture that did not fit into the water jug were scattered along the trails and meadows, all the sights he so enjoyed every morning with Tramp. With the greatest respect and love, my friends and I commemorated the reunion of these 2 dearest souls. Samhain honors the hours when the veil of light between the spirit world and our physical world is the thinnest, when the 2 worlds intermingled and the spirits of ancestors are welcomed back to earth. Pagans disguise themselves sometimes as animals, attempting to trick their friends into believing them to be of spirit rather than mortal. Family generations are also honored and revered on this special day. Since Wicca is an earth-centered and female-oriented religion, it was appropriate to have with me my closest female friends, Gina, Sally, and Tricia, who coincidentally was expecting a baby girl. Samhain had always been a time of great rejoicing in the reconnecting with ancestors, and I felt it appropriate to scatter the ashes of my beast and my bear on this special day. And that concludes this podcast. Please check in next week for episode 31, Closure in California. Having lost my job, ironically, 3 months after Harold died, I found myself more solvent than I'd ever been in my entire life. But I needed to express our thanks to those 11 people in California who had taken the time to express their considerable support and concern. While they were not able to visit Harold during his last 14 months, they were so there in their personal reminiscences and concern. Some of them I hadn't ever met. I thought it appropriate that I make an effort. As always, thank you for your time and interest. Until next week, then, be kind, do good, be happy, and love one another, remembering to coexist with tolerance while embracing similarities and respecting differences.